Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Recha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Corner Wath with the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp, coming with a quick lunch break lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And this afternoon or this evening, man, I just wanted to touch on the fact that we're witnessing the end of the Idumean age, man. Right? That word Idumean just being the Greek for Edom, you know? Because the Greek, as these Edomites love to say, civilization began with the Greeks, right? Well, the Greeks was the first, right, solidification of an Edomite empire, man. Right? And what we're seeing right now is just a continuation of that right into today's times, man. Right? So when you go from Greece to Rome, right, throughout, Great Britain, Spain, France, these Edomites spread throughout those territories, and now you finally find yourself in Babylon the Great, America, man. So that Idumean empire, right, the age of the Idumean, starting from the time of Alexander up until now, right, we're witnessing its downfall. We're witnessing everything about this place, start to collapse, right, because of its moral depravity, and ultimately because of prophecy, because it was prophesied that this place would be destroyed, man. Everything that they're doing to forward, the mark of the beast, right, to forward World War III, to continue to push to separate you Israelites from Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All these things are ultimately fast forwarding his end, man, right? It's hastening his demise, so that's why we pray for these things to continue, right? But going into this, it's 2nd Ezra chapter 6, starting in verse 7, it reads, Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? Or when shall be, Salakia, when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth, right? So, Ezra was asking, when is the end of this age, right? This Edomite Idumean hegemony, when is the end gonna start, and when's the beginning, right? And the end of Esau's rulership started with us coming back to our heritage, man, right? With the spirit of truth being put on our elders and apostles, man, right? Starting with the elder Abba Bivens and the men on down, right? That was the beginning of the end of this Edomite hegemony, man, right? And truthfully, right, as Yahweh Shai prayed for the elect, it was already foretold that they were overcome, right, in these last days, so their end has been prophesied from the beginning, It says, verse 8, And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, right? So Jacob, right, being representative of Israel, man, right, our forefather, he was right on Esau's heels, meaning as Esau was coming out, right, Jacob was right behind him, man, right? So as Esau's going down, who's going to be right behind them is the Israelites, man. None of these other nations have a seat in rulership once Esau goes down, man, right? Once this Idumean age comes to a close, then it's going to be an eternity of righteousness underneath Israel, man, right? Starting with Yahweh Shai and the men on down, right? The 144,000, right? Or the 12, the 144,000. Well, so like it. Yahweh Shai, King David, then the 12, then the 144,000 being that governing body, man, right? And then the rest of the elect, right? It says, For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Now, when you get that in the Good News Translation, it tells you Esau is the end of this age, and Jacob is the beginning of the age to come, right? So that word age going into eon, right? Or that word world, right? Going into that age, but it speaks on this word eon in the Greek, or in the Latin rather. It says, age, vital force, period of existence, right? A generation, a long space of time. The time of Esau is gone, man, right? It's already in the wind. We're witnessing its end before our eyes, and it's a blessing to be able to see this. That's why, scriptures talk about many great men, right, have wanted to see these things, and your eyes get to see them. Roughly paraphrasing, man, right? Let's get the, how's it go? 9 things. Right? Yep, this is, there be 9 things which I am judged in my heart to be happy. And it's Sirach 25:7. So there be 9 things in which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And we're watching the fall of our enemies right before our eyes, man. Right? We're watching this Edomite age, right? This Idumean age, begin to collapse, right? Beneath itself, man. They've been allowed to reach heights that nobody has seen before. And now the Lord is allowing prophecy to take this man out, man. Right? The spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai being in the earth is tearing down this stronghold, right? The truth that he has coming through his men, right? Starting with our elders and apostles on down, right? Is tearing this place up, from the inside out, man. Right? That's why when you read in Ezekiel 35, right? It speaks on, chanting down Mount Seir. Right? Mount Seir is being destroyed, right? Word by word through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? On his men, Let's read this real quick, because I made mention of this in Maccabees. Let's see. Being just to prove that the Idumea, right, is the Greeks, right? And that Greek hegemony, right, was the beginning of the end of Esau, man. It was Esau's, right, beginning rulership, but it was the start of that time ticking, man, right? That hourglass got turned over as soon as these men got in power. Let's see. Goodness. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 9. It reads, and after his death, speaking on Alexander, right? Well, start at 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, right? So Alexander, the so-called great, right? The Greek, right? The son of Philip the Macedonian, who was an Edomite, right? He was Idumean, right? He died right after he, went on his world conquest, and his servants bear rule, every one in his place, right? So those generals, right? Those 4 I think it's 5 generals, if I'm not mistaken, but those men, right, took over those provinces, right, after he perished. It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, right? So they went from Alexander, right, being that focal point, to it being spread to those other generals, to it being spread to their sons, and then eventually being transitioned into the Romans, man, right? So now that Roman Empire has emerged itself again, right, in America. It spread right through, it was revived through the Renaissance after its fall, and then it made its way over to the west and set a foothold up here, right? And now it's Babylon the Great as we know it, the United States, right? It says, and evils were multiplied in the earth, right? So the beginning of those evils was with Alexander the Great, man, right? It started with that empire in Greece, and then it's continued on, right? The age of the Idumean, right, going from Greek to now, right? And now we're seeing the end of it. We're seeing this final collapse, this final fall. And as we read, it's a blessing to be able to see those things, man, right? It's a blessing to see, right, Esau putting all these things in play, whether it be with the mark of the beast infrastructure, right, the plagues and famine and all these things of that nature, right? Him setting up to go to war against Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? Everything we're seeing is a blessing because we're one step closer to our salvation, man, right? Because our salvation, walks hand in hand with their demise, So as we said, the age of the Idumean is directly followed by the age of Yasharallah, man, right? Now let's go here to Obadiah. This is Obadiah 1, and we'll start in verse 1. It reads, "The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and then an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised," right? So this is going into, right, these other nations turning against Esau, Edom, man, right? Turning against the Idumeans. It says, "The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground," right? And it's that pride, man, right? Isaiah 47, right? They didn't consider the latter end. They thought that they were going to be able to finally, accomplish their mission, man, right? To secure themselves as an eternal ruler, right? That's what this whole AI and technocracy, right, is rooted in. That's what this whole thing is rooted in. Salaki, there's somebody next to me. But that's what this whole thing is rooted in, is them trying to attempt immortality, man, right? To regain that birthright, to regain that blessing that they lost to Jacob, right? Because of their greed, right? And Salakia. It says, "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars," and they've always been the eagle, man. From the Greeks to the Romans, right? Even going back, to those ancient kingdoms, man, right? Because they stole it from, Babylon and Egypt, man, because they used the eagle as well. But Esau took those customs upon themselves, right, and used that to solidify themselves in the earth, right? So the eagle represents Esau, Edom in the earth. Though thou, going back to America as well, right? Using the eagle. "Though thou set thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord," right? So he's allowing them, as he allowed Pharaoh, right, to reach these heights, to exude this so-called power, right, on the left hand. And he's going to use them as an example of his ultimate strength, man, right? Of his ultimate influence. Because Esau believes he can replace Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? Esau thinks he can come in and wipe away the names and wipe away the legacy and replace it with his own, right? And this is what the Lord is allowing him to boast himself of, so that he can pull the rug out from under him, And he's got the prophets telling them this to his face day in and day out, right? Let's get this and we'll close out. It's Ezekiel 35 and verse 14. It reads, "Thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate." Oh, let me see. I might start up some. We'll just read the chapter. So Ezekiel 35 and verse 1, right? Because this is the end of the Idumean, man, right? We're watching that age come to a close. It says, "Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it." And that's happening, day in and day out, week in and week out, man, right? Through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, on the prophets. "And say unto it, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee," right? And Seir was what? The capital of Edom, right? the capital of the Idumeans. It says, I am against thee, which is spiritually Babylon the Great today, man. Right? It says, I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Right? So we're watching this take place, right, slowly but surely. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, right? Because as the scriptures tell us, right, they forwarded the affliction, man, right? As we were getting punished, they heaped upon that punishment, man, right, to make it worse. It says, because thou hast had, verse 6, therefore as I live, saith the Lord of power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee, right? And as you read in Numbers, I believe it's 35, it reads that the land that has been shed, the blood that's been shed in the land can't be, the blood that's been shed in the land can't be cleansed except by the man whose blood shed it, man. Paraphrasing that, man, if I said it right. Right? But pretty much those who did the deeds, right, committed the iniquities, right, are going to have to be paid back for that, man, right? Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from him, or from it, him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men, in thy hills and in thy valleys, and in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword, right? So that's going into World War III. But this is just the ultimate downfall, right, of Babylon the Great as a whole, man, right? There's going to be mass death, right, across all these nations that are vassals of Babylon the Great, man, right? It reads, because, verse 9, I will make thee perpetual desolations, right, it's going into continual, and thy cities shall not return, and ye shall know that I am the Lord, right? So the age, right, everything that they've done to try to, solidify their remembrance is going to be wiped away, right? All their statues, their monuments, all of it's going to be done away with, man, right? Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. Therefore, going into the nation of Israel, man, the northern and southern kingdom, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will even do according to thine anger, and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee, right? So again, the Lord is exalting himself, right, through the pulling down of Esau, Edom, man, right? Right, this is going to be his last great show of force, right? As he did the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, right? He's going to do to the kings of Babylon, right? Going into these wicked elites. Verse 13 or verse 12. It says, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies, which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying they are laid desolate, they are given us to consume, right? So they believed that they were going to overcome us, man. They believed that there would be no way for us to come back, right? That's why in Revelation 11, it talks about how, right, that great fear fell upon them, right? Because they're seeing us come back, and they're seeing the power of the Lord start to be exercised in the earth again, man, right? And they're fearful. They can see the end of their age coming, man. They see them last little specks of sand in the hourglass, right, start to fall. Continuing on, it says, thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and that's what these devils do. They boast against the Lord. Every time they speak about the advancements of AI, the pushing of the brain chips, the whatever they can do to change the weather, to change the food, to, create consciousness and all things of that nature, man, right? That's boasting against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You see that with Yuval Noah Harari, man, right? Talking about how there's no need to fear God. You know, we can make our own rain if there's a drought. We can do this. You see Elon Musk talk about they have Jesus-like powers through these microchips, man. Right? Right? That's a boast against Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Verse 14. Thus saith the Lord power, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate. Man. And as thou did rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, right? All Idumea, the age of the Idumean, right, is coming to an end, man, violently and quickly, man. Even all of it, right? So even these, you lower level Edomites, right, that didn't get your slice of the pie, and now you crashing out and crying and begging, right? You still gonna get it, man. You still gonna get your ass put into slavery, man. You still gonna get put to death by the Lord because you are a part of this, right? You walked hand in hand with this devil, and if you were given the resource, you would be doing the same thing, man, right? It says, and they shall know that I am the Lord, right? So again, this is giving all the glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right, for destroying this man, right? And it's a beautiful thing, as I said, right? We're gonna rejoice at the fall of our enemies, man, right? And it's a beautiful blessing that we have this opportunity to see it, you know. But just to close it out, man, right? We're watching the fall of the Idumean, the age of the Idumean, right? Is coming to a close, you know, and the age of Israel, right, is beginning, right? And it started with this word, you know, coming into the earth, man, right? The comforter being given, right? And allowing prophecy, right, to exude through these men, through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, you know? So Lord willing, that was edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. I want to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Recha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom, Kwame Yasharala, and Abad Babal. Shalom.